The journey of denim, from cotton to finished fabric. Welcome to an exploration of one of the world's most iconic textiles. We will trace the incredible transformation of raw cotton into the durable, stylish denim we wear every day.
This is natural cotton flock, and cotton is the raw material used for manufacturing denim. We've come to TRC Candiani, just a little north of Milan in Italy. The Candiani family has run the company for almost a century, and TRC is known as one of the oldest and most historic denim mills in Europe. Cotton is grown in more than 100 countries and comes in around 60 different grades of quality. Since cotton is a natural product and nature is fickle, today's denim manufacturers mix cotton from different origins, so as to guarantee consistent quality all year round. It goes without saying that choosing the right cotton is a skillful business. And although today the work is done by machines, Mr. Candiani knows only too well what the different parameters are.
I still buy the cotton. I am the guy in charge of the cotton. And of course, having over 30 years of experience now, I know for each single area in the world what is better for us.
When I buy cotton, I have to look at a few parameters to check if the quality is suitable for our needs. So first parameter I can check with a visual inspection is to check the grade. The grade means color and cleanness of the cotton. Color, as you can see, it's white. It's a very nice white color and very low quantity of leaf. The second parameter, which is as well very important, is the length of the fiber, which is necessary to have the right yarn, the right quality in the yarns. And I can do this checking by hand in this way. And now I have the fiber which has been parallelized by me, and this is the length of this Indian cotton. It's over 1 inch and 1/8. Very suitable for our yarns.
The Candianis maintain a stock of cotton that will last about 3 months depending on the demand. At the start of production, there'll be about 13,000 bales of cotton in the warehouse that'll be used to make about 8,000 kilometers of denim, about the distance from Amsterdam to Los Angeles. Nowadays, the Candianis use cotton from India, Greece, Brazil, and West Africa, varieties that meet the company's strict quality demands. To arrive at a predetermined desired mix, bales from different origins are placed one after another on the conveyor belt. The opened bales now enter the carding process, a very important operation to determine the final features of the yarn. A sort of giant vacuum cleaner armed with a comb rakes the flakes from the cotton, removing them by air suction. Now it's time for the different varieties of cotton to be blended. This is done in large chambers, where the cotton floats in the air during the entire process. The process ensures that seeds and other impurities are removed from the cotton, as well as separating the short fibers from the long ones. Once the cotton fibers have been blended and arranged in parallel, they're fed through a device to produce what is known as a sliver. The sliver is then remixed a further 36 times to obtain the perfect blend. Like in every ultra-modern factory, robots are used for almost all logistical processes. But if the machine should fail, human intervention is always at hand. The sliver is then slightly twisted, preparing it for spinning. The rough lengths of sliver are then drawn into a finer yarn and wrapped onto a bobbin in the flyer, ready to embark on the next step of their journey, spinning. There are two types of spinning methods, ring spinning and open end. Ring spinning differs in that the sliver is prepared through a flyer, which puts a slight tension on the sliver before spinning, while in open end spinning, it's fed directly into the open end spinning machine. This factory only uses the ring spin method, a technique developed more than 100 years ago. Ring spinning adds strength and character to the yarn. The ring machine spins about 16 to 20 meters of yarn per bobbin per minute, which makes it extremely difficult to follow the process with the naked eye. However, by slowing down the images, we get a clear idea of how the process works. Ring spinning fell briefly out of favor during the 70s, with the advent of a new method called open-end spinning, as Mr. Candiani explains.
The advantage of open-end production is that the process was much shorter, with higher productivity and lower cost.
Open-end yarn is formed in a rotor through centrifugation. The difference with ring-spun yarn is that the process of open-end spinning doesn't use twisting, thus making the yarn weaker and more even. Less interesting.
Anyway, market moved in the 70s to open end, and then in the 90s started to move back to ring. Because product manager of our customers, they found old jeans of the 50s, of the 60s, and they realized that they were better looking.
And so when we installed the new ring frames, it was not easy because in the 50s, in the 60s, the machines were old, so maybe people wanted to make perfect yarns, but they were not able to do it. While in the 90s, machines were made in a perfect way, and the yarns were looking really very even and very nice. So we had to readjust the machine in order to produce, let's say, a bad quality of yarns, but with the right look.
In the past, the drawback of ring-spun yarn was that the threads were simply tied together with a knot, which led to weaving faults in the cloth. Now, with this ingenious machine in today's factory, this problem has been solved. The thread ends are glued together under pressure by adding a little water. The machine also monitors the moment when the bobbin reaches the end and needs to be glued to the next bobbin. And if the yarn breaks, a metal arm picks it up and glues it back. This mill spins about 1.3 million kilometers of yarn a day. That's enough to go around the Earth 32 times. Various types of yarn can be spun on a ring machine, like for instance core spun yarn. With this method, an elastic thread is injected into the core of the cotton yarn. The yarns produced in this process are used for stretch or comfort denim. When the cotton yarns are ready for dyeing, they are first wound onto a beam. In the past, the heavy cones weighing 4 kilos had to be mounted manually onto the warp machine. Nowadays, robots take over the task. Cones are fed automatically into the machine. Single strands of cotton yarn from the cones are then wound onto an enormous beam. A beam can hold an average of 4,500 yarns, arranged alongside one another. Once the beam is filled, it's known as the warp. Once the cotton yarns are ready for dyeing, they're first wound onto a beam. A beam can hold an average of 4,500 yarns, arranged one next to the other. And once the beam is filled, it's known as the warp. Every yarn will be dyed individually, a method known as slasher dyeing. Another method is called rope dyeing, which means, like the word rope says, twisting the yarns into 12 big ropes before winding them onto a beam. The drawback to this method is that the thick strand has to be disentangled after the dyeing process to make the yarn ready for weaving. On the other hand, the rope dyeing method has the advantage of being easier to apply because it requires less technical experience. However, here in this factory, they use the slasher dyeing method. To arrive at different colors of denim, the yarns are dipped in baths, known as boxes in the trade, placed one after the other. A dyeing chain can be made up of as many as 8 boxes. The boxes contain the same color indigo. To produce sulfur-bottom denim, the warp is first dipped into a sulfur bath before immersing it in indigo. Oxidation causes the colors to change from green to blue. Indigo is a natural product that comes from the Indigofera plant and can still be found in very small quantities in nature. And by the end of the 18th century, it was created by synthesis by BASF in Germany, because it became impossible to find enough natural indigo to dye big quantities. Today, the industry uses almost exclusively synthetic indigo. As indigo is not fully absorbed by the cotton but stays on top of the yarn, it is susceptible to fading. Alternatively, the sulfur can be added after the yarn has been indigo dyed. This is called sulfur topping, because the sulfur layer is applied onto the indigo, hence the word topping. All three stages, sulfur bottoming, the amount of boxes and sulfur topping, have an effect on the final color or cast of the fabric. In some parts of the world, the indigo dyeing process is associated with pollution and extreme water consumption. However, this is not the case at TRC Candiani, which is subject to strict European regulating. In fact, Candiani has its own unique purification and in-house recyclable water management system. After the warp has been dyed, the large beams go to the weaving room. The dyeing process completed, the beams are ready for weaving, and here there's a choice between two weaving looms, the projectile and the shuttle loom. Although shuttle looms produce no more than 4 meters an hour, these looms still enjoy great popularity. Because of their personality and selvage, the real denim connoisseur is willing to pay a higher price for this product.
These are basically looms with the same technologies of the looms that my grandfather had in the 70s and my father had. And we decided to go back to the shuttle looms because there is some demand on the market to have the original denim, like the denim which was made in the 60s, in the 70s, with the selvage, which is perfectly closed.
When weaving denim, a distinction is made between the dyed blue threads called the warp, the vertical weaving threads, and the undyed white threads, the weft, the horizontal threads. The shuttle loom feeds the white thread through the blue thread at high speed and then back again, skipping 3 blue threads at a time. This is called 3x1. The result is called a closed edge or selvage. When denim gained popularity in the United States in the late 19th century, one braid or weaving pattern was used. The Twill line originally ran from left to right in the denim and was known as the right-hand twill or RHT, the pattern used by Levi Strauss. To set itself apart, Lee, who went into production later, decided to weave in the opposite direction, from right to left. This was called the left-hand twill or LHT. The third big player on the jeans market at that time, Wrangler, realized that there were no other options left. So they introduced the BT, a pattern that had no specific direction, thus creating the broken twill. The most common weave used for denim these days is the right-hand twill. Most denim at this mill is woven with right-hand twill. In addition to the right hand, left hand and broken twills, the jeans industry explosion has resulted in other patterns being developed in response to changing trends. The denim industry uses a whole host of other patterns, such as herringbone or cavalry twill. Not only is denim woven in a variety of patterns, it also comes in different weights, commonly expressed in ounces per square yard, where 1 ounce per square yard is equivalent to almost 3 grams per 0.9144 square meters. There are light and heavyweight denims, with weights ranging between 2.5 ounces to over 20 ounces per square yard. The most common weights are between 7.5 and 15 ounces. Another type of loom used in this factory is the projectile loom. It propels the weft through the warp at extremely high speed. This machine turns at no less than 300 to 450 revs per minute. This method produces an open edge to the fabric. The projectile loom is the most common loom used and produces a wide denim cloth of approximately 148 centimeters or 58 inches. As the looms are fully automatic, they tend to make the denim look too perfect. However, a slight adjustment to the loom results in a less even weave, which adds more character to the denim. In terms of speed, projectile looms are way out in front. They produce an average of 20 meters of full-width denim an hour, or no less than 30 million meters a year. That's enough to wrap the earth in denim about 750 times, should you want to. With the weaving behind us, our denim is ready to be finished. Its final stage before leaving on its journey to become a pair of jeans. The large rolls of woven denim are now in what is known as loom state, raw in the true sense of the word. In the past, jeans were made from denim in loom state, but with today's quality norms, denim too has to meet higher standards. Besides that, this is what happens if we don't finish the denim. The raw denim will shrink and the side seams will go askew. A good enough reason to finish the denim. Dry denim is no longer what it used to be. These days, most fabric undergoes at least a basic finishing process. The term raw denim was coined by G-Star, and in fact it's another term for contemporary loom state denim. Dry denim with a basic fabric finish. Raw denim has meanwhile become a household name in the industry. The first process is the so-called singeing process, in which the surface hair of the fabric is singed or burnt to give it a smoother look. Then the fabric is rinsed to rid it of any remaining unwanted residues. To prevent the denim from twisting, a skewing process is applied. In this case, skewing actually means straightening. The cloth is fed through two rollers that turn against one another. In the case of a right-hand twill, most pressure is exerted on the left side of the cloth. Stretching one side of the fabric prevents the material, and therefore the trouser legs, from twisting. This process can be repeated several times depending on the weight of the denim. In addition to skewing and singeing, denim undergoes sanforizing. This process is applied to minimize shrinkage of the fabric and, therefore, of the future pair of jeans. The difference between sanforizing and skewing lies in the fact that the entire surface of the fabric is treated, whereas skewing is only applied to one side of the fabric. However, that's not the end of our story. Although it has undergone a basic finish, the fabric can still be subjected to additional treatments, creating the look that many of today's wearers expect. These fancy finishing touches are the way to create modern and distinct fabrics. For instance, flat optic adds elasticity to the material and gives it a more flat and shiny look. Then there is additional foaming and coating, applications used to optically enhance the fabric. Indigo coating, on the other hand, is applied as a top layer on the outside of the fabric. Along with the continual checks carried out during production of the denim, the fabric undergoes final quality controls, where it's vital to test the solubility of the denim, something that is called crocking value, a test carried out both dry and wet. However, it doesn't stop there. TRC Candiani carries out a final manual quality check, where close inspection will reveal if there are any unwanted irregularities in the fabric. It takes 6 days for one person, and a lot of machinery, to make 1 kilometer of denim. And so a batch of cotton, after a long and complicated process, has magically grown into a roll of denim, about to depart on the final stage in its journey from the warehouse. The rolls are usually sent directly to the customer's factory, where the denim comes into its own as a pair of jeans. There are many ways to give denim a soul.
The art and science behind every pair of jeans. Denim's remarkable journey is a sophisticated fusion of time-honored textile traditions and cutting-edge manufacturing technology. The industry is continuously evolving, with innovation focused heavily on sustainable practices to ensure the future of denim production is environmentally sound. In the next episode of Denim Diaries, we'll shift gears and explore the types of denim fabrics. Thanks for watching, subscribe to stay tuned, and as always, stay rugged, stay real.